Right now, you're wearing clothes. Obviously, you probably haven't thought about it since you got dressed this morning. You just did it automatically, like breathing. But that simple act, covering your body in fabric, is one of the oldest habits our species has. Older than cities, older than farming, older, maybe, than language itself. The question is, when did humans first decide to start wearing clothes, and what on earth made them think of it? Let's go back, way back. Here's the problem researchers ran into almost immediately. Clothes don't survive. Fabric rots. Leather decomposes. Fur disintegrates. So archaeologists can't just dig up a 200,000-year-old jacket and call it a day. They had to get creative. And the clue that cracked this whole mystery open didn't come from a cave, a fossil, or a piece of cloth. It came from lice. In the early 2000s, a team led by evolutionary biologist Mark Stoneking looked at human body lice, the kind that live in clothing, not hair. Body lice are a genetically distinct species from head lice, and they can only survive by clinging to fabric. No clothes, no body lice. So Stoneking's team figured, if we can date when body lice evolved as a separate species, we can date when humans started wearing something for them to live in. Their answer? Somewhere around 170,000 years ago. Think about that. Long before pyramids, before pottery, before anyone had a word for fashion, humans were already wrapping themselves in something. But why? Here's the twist. It probably wasn't modesty. It was survival. Around that time, early Homo sapiens were living through brutal climate swings in Africa, and some groups were pushing into colder, harsher environments. Humans are basically hairless compared to other primates. Great for sweating and endurance running, terrible for surviving a cold night. So the leading theory is that clothing wasn't a cultural choice. It was a technology, a survival tool, same category as fire or a spear. Here's what makes this so important. Clothing may be one of the very first pieces of technology that let humans leave Africa and colonize the rest of the planet. Without it, an ice age winter in Europe or Siberia just kills you. With it, suddenly the whole map is open. So let's fast forward to actual evidence you can hold in your hand. In 2016, at Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found bone tools dated to roughly 70,000 years ago that show wear patterns consistent with scraping hides. The exact kind of work you'd do to turn a stiff animal skin into something soft enough to wear. Around the same period, sites across Africa start showing pierced shell beads, which many researchers think were sewn onto clothing as decoration, which means clothing didn't stay purely practical for long. Almost as soon as humans figured out how to cover themselves, they started figuring out how to look good doing it. Same. Honestly, relatable. Now, here's where it gets specific, and a little eerie. In 2009, archaeologists working in Georgia, in a cave called Zudzwana, found flax fibers dyed in colors like turquoise and pink, dated to around 34,000 years ago. Dyed, colored, on purpose. That's not survival gear anymore. That's style. But the real game changer, the invention that took clothing from wrapped animal skin to actual garment, was the needle. In 2016, in Denisova Cave in Siberia, archaeologists found a bone needle with an eye hole, dated to around 50,000 years ago, one of the oldest ever discovered. A needle means fitted clothing, sleeves, layers, garments shaped to a body instead of just draped over it. And once humans could sew, cold weather survival got dramatically easier, which lines up almost perfectly with the timeline of humans pushing into Siberia and eventually crossing into the Americas. Think about that for a second. A tiny sliver of bone with a hole in it may have helped unlock an entire continent. But here's the thing. Clothing wasn't just about staying alive anymore. It became a signal. Archaeologists studying burial sites from the Upper Paleolithic, like Sungir in Russia, roughly 34,000 years old, found skeletons covered in thousands of ivory beads, arranged in patterns that suggest elaborately decorated clothing. This wasn't for warmth. This was status, identity, a way of saying who you were before you even opened your mouth. And that idea, it never left us. Fast forward through the Bronze Age, through Rome, through medieval sumptuary laws that literally dictated who was legally allowed to wear certain colors and fabrics based on class. And you start to see it. Clothing has been doing two jobs this entire time, keeping us alive and telling the world something about us. Sometimes true, sometimes performed. Which brings us back to you, this morning, picking out what to wear without a second thought. So here's the full picture. It starts with lice, quietly proving humans wore something 170,000 years ago. Then hide scraping tools 70,000 years ago, turning skins into wearable material. Then dyed fibers 34,000 years ago, because even early humans wanted color. Then a needle in Siberia, 50,000 years old, that may have helped humans survive their way into a whole new continent. Then beads and burials, turning clothing into identity. And now, tens of thousands of years later, you're still doing the exact same two things every single morning. You're protecting your body, and whether you admit it or not, you're saying something about yourself. That outfit you didn't think twice about? It's the same instinct that helped a small group of humans survive an ice age and eventually take over the entire planet. Being human has never just been about staying alive. It's about doing it. With a little bit of style. If you want more of these deep dives into the weird, ancient roots of everyday habits, stick around. There's a lot more where this came from.